Welcome back to Out with the New, In with the Old. Today, we're going to continue with the series and going into the decade of the 70s. Yesterday, we did the 60s, and I owned several cars. I actually forgot a couple that I owned when I went through the video, but I'll probably forget a couple of the 70s cars I had too, but I had plenty. I had a 74 Firebird Formula 400 with a 4-speed. I had a 74 Lincoln Continental 4-door. I had a 78 Lincoln Town Car. I had a 77 Lincoln Mark V. I had a 77 Toyota Celica, which was a little tank. Had a 79 Cadillac Eldorado. Oh, I had several trucks. 76 Chevy short bed, 77 3/4 ton, 76 3/4 ton. That just reminded me of a Chevy truck I forgot about for the 60s. But we're in the 70s now, so that's what we're going to concentrate. And I know I'm forgetting some. But anyway, these, you're going to find a lot more available than 60s cars. Some of their cons are, as the 70s wore on, build quality on American cars got a little rough. It was becoming obvious they were cutting costs. As an example, I bought a 79 Eldorado from the original owner with, if I remember right, it had about 90,000 miles on it, but it was well cared for. Great running car, ran great, drove fine, everything was good about it. But little things on that car just fell off. The armrest in the middle broke. The seat popped out one time, and when I pulled over to see what happened, there were just ball bearings and all kinds of parts to one of the electric motors. Everything just like flew apart underneath there. I was at a car wash using a high pressure, which I don't like to use, but I do every now and then. And I was washing it, and one of the emblems flew off. Just a chain of things like that happened with the car that told me this car wasn't put together that good. Other than that, I really liked the car. It drove and handled beautiful. Never really had mechanical problems. I think I put an axle on it once. But other than that, I didn't do much to it. It was a great car. I loved the way it handled. Fuel mileage was bad in the 70s. The cars were so choked up that no matter what they did, they just got bad. And they were trying to get better mileage, and they just got worse. Power was way down on them. They lowered compression. Then in the mid-70s, 75, they started putting catalytic converters on all of them. Just as the 70s wore on, emissions, and they didn't have it figured out how to pass these emissions and keep any power in the cars. There was 455 and 460 cubic inch, and Cadillac with a 500 cubic inch engine. And the 500 cubic inch Cadillac engine made 190 horsepower. Kind of crazy. Still no overdrive. And this exasperated the problem with no power, because the way they fixed that to get fuel mileage was put really tall gearing in them. Well, now you had these cars that had no power, they were choked to death, and they had really tall rear ends. They literally wouldn't get out of their own way. The ugly bumpers, which started in 73 and got worse in 74, and they didn't get that figured out, that were styling them into the cars until the end of the decade. And then the other thing that makes it harder today to find good examples is, I don't know what the exact percentage of cars is that had a vinyl roof. And not only that, but a thickly padded vinyl roof that holds all kinds of moisture. but I'm going to say 60, maybe 70% of them had a vinyl roof. It was very common, and you'll look at these cars and you may find one that's pretty clean, and then like a Lincoln maybe that has a vinyl roof on it, and which is heavily padded, and you'll look around that back window and it'll be completely rotted out. I mean, just you pull a vinyl roof off, there's nothing but holes underneath. It's a major operation to fix that. And the last con that I have written down, I know there's probably some more, is they were still very, very softly suspended cars, meaning the one thing that kept them a little bit better was most of them were starting to come with radial tires, which helped out a lot. Pros, cars were just about all transitioned over to electronic ignition, especially by the mid-70s, which was an improvement. They still had mechanical fuel pumps, easy, cheap. Carburetors, for the most part. At Eldorado, I had one of the early fuel injections, which I never had a problem with it. They're still pretty simple. Not quite as simple as a 60s car because they had all these vacuum lines and all kinds of crap under the hood for the emissions. But it wasn't ridiculous. They were still simple. The basic car was still simple. And it was still riding on that 60s engine, transmission, rear end, just pretty bulletproof stuff for the most part. I say at the end of the 70s, you're almost looking at the 80s, the way the cars got. But for the most part, we had a pretty durable cars through the 70s. Most of them had better brakes. The brakes were starting to get, most cars had disc brakes, at least on the front. I think the first car I had that had four-wheel discs was the Mark V. I remember doing the brakes on it. It had disc brakes all the way around. And another pro, I think, is they were probably one of the more colorful decades of cars. I mean, when I say colorful, you open a door on a Cadillac or even a lesser car like a Pontiac or something that had a plaid interior. Some of them had orange and green and blue. They were just different colors. There were so many different colors to get the cars in, and interiors, and they were just colorful. And nowadays, you look at new cars, it seems like silver, white, black, and I don't know, maybe a couple other colors in between. The interiors are either black or gray. I mean, there's no color in vehicles anymore. Not much anyway. And the 70s was probably the peak of colors in cars. I like them. I mean, I don't like the way they were down on power, but they can be improved upon without major operations. They can be made better. Adjustments of timing, exhaust, carburetor, they were run lean. You can richen them up. You can advance timing from what their factory was. You can free up the exhaust a little, and probably add 50 horsepower to some of them. You can make pretty good differences in them. I did a quick look on Marketplace, and I wrote down four. One of them I started writing down, and I kind of crossed it back out because it needed heater core, and I'm not a fan of doing heater cores on cars. I mean, I will. I mean, if it's my own, I probably will. But buying a car that needs a heater, unless it's dirt cheap. Anyway, what I found, and again, you're not going to get, you're probably not going to get a nice, clean Mark. Well, I don't know. I say that. Here's actually. Let's look at the list. 77 LTD 4-door, $4,000, 351 cold AC, and this car was clean in and out. It would be worth looking at. It was a neat, clean-looking car, and that's a durable drivetrain with the AC blowing cold. It'd be a good car. Here's one at the upper end of the price range, a 71 Grand Prix for $10,000. I had to write it down because 10,000 is the limit, and a 71 Grand Prix is probably going to appreciate. This one was in really good shape, ran good, shifted smooth, just had a recent valve job, so the heads were off, and that was taken care of. That's actually good. Had the 400 4-barrel dual exhaust from the factory. Those are nice cars. Those are really nice cars. That is something, if somebody wanted to get their foot in the door on a classic for cheap, that's a good car to look at. Then I was starting to write down the 73 Chrysler Newport, which I was disappointed when I seen it needed a heater core because I kind of like those too. Those are nice cars, but we're going to skip over it and go to the 74 T-Bird, which in 74 the T-Bird was the equivalent of a Lincoln Mark IV. It was the same exact platform, meaning I think in 74 by then it was getting to 460. Runs and drives great, AC cold. And the pictures of the car, it did look nice. It looked like a nice, straight, clean car. Yeah, it's going to get 10 miles at a gallon, but he had a price on it, $6,723. I don't know where he came up with that price, but that's what it was listed for, $6,723. For an old car that's, a full luxury boat, I don't know. And everything working, no rust. That's a pretty good deal. I mean, you still have to go look at it to make sure, but anyway, that's what I found. Some things happened during the 70s. A lot of things happened during the 70s. It's almost like we transitioned twice. Like right at the beginning of the 70s, we still had some of the hottest muscle cars around, and between insurance companies and government regulations on emissions, they got killed off. They still ran decent, 71, 72. Pontiac still had an SD 455, which was extremely rare, so you almost don't want to count that, and those cars are over $100,000 now. But and most muscle cars are going to be out of our price range, but I'm just kind of doing the history on the 70s, and it was the end of the muscle car as it was introduced in the 60s. Some of the fastest ones were 1970. You had LS6 Chevelles, you had Stage 1 Buicks, the last couple of years of the Hemi, 426 Hemi, you had 446 packs, you had 455 HO Pontiacs. I mean, you had some really fast cars. Quick cars. And by 73, it was pretty much over. They were still trying to hang on there, but it was the writing was on the wall. And as we go through the 70s and you get around 77, 78, 79, on came the downsizing. They weren't getting these cars to get any fuel mileage, so they just started chopping them down, which actually made some of them better. I don't know if it made them look any better, but it made them better cars. They were better handling cars. They were better driving cars. They still had good engines. And if you see those for sale, especially the General Motors, Cadillac downsized a 500 to 425, but it was like a really good engine, just a bulletproof engine. It was also the age of the personal luxury car. That's what I guess took the place of the muscle car. Since they couldn't do muscle cars, now you had your Monte Carlo, your Grand Prix, your Cutlass Supreme, your T-Bird got downsized in 77 and became more of a regular, competitive personal luxury car to the others I just mentioned. Cougars, they all kind of fit the same bill. And all the way through the 70s, those were extremely popular cars, with the Cutlass Supreme outselling all of them. Anyway, it's an era that's a little easier to find deals in. You're still looking at a 50-year-old car, so you're going to have to do your due diligence on things. Build quality was down. They weren't built as well. But when I say that, I'm talking about body, interior. They still had good engines, transmissions, rear end. The basic bones of the car were still durable, tough cars. It was just the way the bodies were put together in the interiors. They were starting to go downhill. Especially when you compare a 75 Cadillac to a 65 Cadillac, and open and close the door, get in the inside of it. There is no comparison. I mean, that 65 Cadillac was built and it was beautiful. And while the 75 Cadillac was colorful and pretty inside, it was getting kind of junky. You closed the door and the window would rattle. I mean, it just wasn't the same kind of car. They cut costs pretty bad. Anyway, I guess that's it for the 70s cars. They're kind of fun. And the nice thing about them is there's a lot of affordable ones out there, because a lot of people don't like 70s cars. But I think there's some neat ones out there. They're worth looking at. And as far as the being down on power thing, that can be rectified. That's not a game changer. And it can be done without spending a lot of money. So anyway, we'll try to get the 80s in tomorrow. That's going to be harder for me because I didn't have hardly any cars from that era. And I know the cars of that era, so I should be able to do it. There's a lot going on there, and I don't want to skip the 80s. And it's a good era to look at. So we'll get into that either tomorrow or the next day. But for now, that's it. And if you like the content, subscribe. Appreciate you watching.